Right.
So, I mean, even in both of those situations, I think those things are just kind of naturally what's happening. And I guess what we want society to do is not to make those things an issue anymore, right? We want to be able to say that is just natural, and I think that should be the move. Yeah.
Right.
I think that's one of the things is that attention, while it is in our case, I would say almost always positive, like it's either out of curiosity or just interest or something. It's it's never negative in our case. But it is sometimes kind of overwhelming or maybe just too much, and you I guess you want it to you want to just kind of fit in and not have to sort of be a center of attention.
Right.
Yeah, I think also because that the people here have to treat those kids like as what they are, no matter whether they are multicultural or what color skin they are. It's just that they are just a part of Korea.
Right.
That's all,
Right.
I think.
Right. I feel like it's becoming a serious problem though, because I've heard some reports saying that a lot of multicultural children drop out of school.
Yeah.
Do you know a little bit about that?
The numbers are here and there. The school we support in ACA, we have a lot of the students there that either can't afford to go to Korean schools because they don't provide, instruction in the language that they can use, and there are also kids that have problems growing up in school. So I think there are things that are trying to be done in certain areas, and in areas where there's a bigger kind of multicultural population, they're putting more efforts there. But for those one or two kids that happen to go to a school where there's not really that much of a support there, there does have a tendency to still be certain issue, and it's not just cultural. It's because kids are just like that, right? Kids have a tendency in middle school and when they're younger to just tease.
Make cliques and hang out with people that they feel more comfortable with.
And when they can see something that they can attack onto, right? We can see that culture. We can see, oh, that's the difference. We can attack that.
Right.
And that creates more of an issue.
Serene, do you plan on educating and raising your children here in Korea, for the rest of, I guess, I don't know, for the long term? Because I know a lot of multicultural families, they plan on going back to their, home country or later on when their children reach maybe about middle school age or elementary school or middle school age. But do you plan on staying here?
Honestly, because they are still holding a Korean passport, I wish that they can speak Korean. But maybe up to their high school or whatever, I'm planning to send them back to Singapore or whatever to have an education. If not, then maybe an international school down here, because that if they only pick up a Korean language, then they will be a big problem when they.
So language is a big issue. You want them to have. You want them
not only the language, but it's the exposure of the life that they can see here and there.
What about you, Aiden?
Well, we just recently made a decision to probably stay here for the long term. So we originally were thinking about going back to Canada, but now things are, our life is here, and I've lived here for a third of my life now, so it's sort of my home. And so the education issue is probably like the number one concern as a parent that we have right now. And for us, it's really coming down to what kind of public school can we send him to, where he'll be in a supportive, respectful environment, or do we send him to an international school or alternative school? And to be honest, it's a really tough choice, because it's coming down to things like like money and location and things like that. And I kind of expressed this to my parents back home, and they just said, we didn't even think about that. We just looked at whatever school was closest to the house on the map, and that's where you went. And so this idea of education being this like main sort of issue in your life as a parent is not something that I grew up with.
I think that's more Korean culture, actually, because education is so emphasized here.
Yeah, it is emphasized, and I guess we're all involved in the education industry to some extent, so we're really sensitive to how things are done, and so maybe we're also oversensitive to it, but it is like the main concern. And I don't know where it's going yet. You know, like we can send them to an international school precisely for the reasons that Celine expressed, because there's a bigger world out there. There's more opportunities.
Right.
But doing that also, like, the one problem is, you know, that within Korea, the network, your social network, is really important.
Right.
Going into an international school as opposed to, say, like a public school or a national university or whatever, you're going to be isolated from that network, and it could possibly make it harder for you as an adult to integrate back into the society because you haven't gone to school, or you don't have those same experiences that the people you're working with and stuff. So that is that's another issue, right?
So your son, so you plan on bringing him up as, I guess, a Korean citizen then, or he's probably
right now
not a Korean citizen, a dual citizenship?
He's dual citizenship, and you know, he can choose, I guess, when the time comes, what he's gonna.
I think that dual citizenship issue is something that I also wanted to mention. Do you know what the current legislation is like?
You know, we were actually just talking about this when we were out there. They're waiting. There apparently there were some new legislation that had been passed. You know, currently I think adoptees can get dual citizenship. Most multicultural children, mixed children, they can have dual citizenship up until they're 18. And just recently, I learned from Sinead that you can actually, if you're married, and you can have dual citizenship also if you're married to a Korean too. Mixed Koreans have yet to be able to get dual citizenship if we've kind of come back, and I think Kyopos have not really been yet. But again, I'm not really sure if any of that has changed in the most recent changes to the laws.
And it's really hard to get information about anything about that.
Because last time when I went to give birth to my son, and then actually the immigration say that if you're proven good records in Korea and financial stable, you can have you can convert your permanent residence to a citizenship very easily compared to others.
Oh.
Yeah, and my only question would be, does that mean giving up your other citizenship? So
No.
So you can keep both.
But provided it's allowed by your country.
Your country.
Huh.
Okay, yeah.
So it's really hard to get information on
It
this.
is.
It's really hard. Yeah.
Well, that's something that we will have an expert on that, I guess. So that's something that we could ask her. So yeah, because my sister actually, she was born in the States, so I think she has dual citizenship, but I think it was very difficult for us to find out information about that as well, and I don't know to what extent, you know, having a Korean citizenship, I don't know what that exactly means, you know. For example, if your child holds dual citizenship, what does that mean? I mean, does it mean that they'll get their, you know, registration cards, or what does it mean for them here, you know, living in Korean society? I think it's a big question.
Well, you know, for someone with an F4 visa and knowing all the things I can't do, you know, I mean, you know, there's a different F series visas, and I believe F5 is the one where you can actually vote in local elections, and there's a test with that. And so I guess there's just different levels of things you can do. Even with the F4 visa or the F2 visa, even though if they kind of recognize you as kind of a what do they call it, dongpyo, or kind of Korean brother, or is the way they kind of describe it on your card, we're still limited in the things that we can do online. We're still limited in the ways we can make our contracts. So, you know, even when I go to the bank, they'll say things, well, you know, this is not a Korean number. I said, but I'm Korean. And say, well, yes, we understand that, but there's limitations to this. So because of the way our system is set up in Korea, for the way we interact with a lot of different things online and things.
Banking,
everything.
banking,
that dual citizenship actually makes living here a lot easier.
Even getting a library card
really
is... Yeah, I
very
can't get a
difficult.
library card.
Really?
Yeah. This online, I had to actually go to the office and have somebody like type it in.
So you
Yeah,
can't
me
do
too.
anything online. It's you know, I do remember some of my friends saying it's difficult to get a cell phone. It's difficult to do banking transactions.
It's getting better, but
Better.
it's you know, something like that, which is a very simple thing to fix.
Right.
That it's taking too long.
Trying to get an account with one of the Korean websites sometimes can also be because you don't have the proper number.
Resident number.
Yeah, I still can't use some of the music the music websites. 'Cause,
Really?
Yeah, they won't allow that.
But your
you know.
children don't have any problems